Yo, it's Elliot with Yo Elliot. You got strength questions, and I got your answer. Yo, Elliot. Today's question comes from a long line of videos being sent my way, Facebook and YouTube messages, where people ask, Elliot, what the hell do you mean by breathe into your balls? Essentially what I say, breathe into your balls, I mean breathe deep. So this video is going to be a demonstration of the stretches, mobilizations, and exercises that I personally use in order to breathe deep. And before I get into those exercises and stretches and mobilizations, I want to give you a brief idea of why most people have restricted breathing patterns. A lot of people think they know how to breathe deep, especially a lot of like yoga and Tai Chi people who, they belly breathe and they take long breaths and they try to expand their body as best as possible, but there are muscular rigidities, or what Wilhelm Reich calls muscular armoring, in different areas of the body that are all associated with respiration. So according to somatic therapists and body psychologists, as we develop psychologically as human beings, we develop defenses against our environment. Most of those defenses are against our parents when we first start growing up. If your parent yells at you because you drop something, you create a defense that is not only psychological, shutting out or pushing away, but it's actually physical. You physically move away, or you hold on to, or you pull together. These are different physical defenses that are manifestations of psychological stimulus. So either, some of us have had parents that were very hard on us. Some of us had parents that were very neglectful of us. Some of us, so whatever experience you had, even in school or with your siblings, these are all experiences you have in the early stages of your life that create a situation whereby you will physically defend yourself. Now, I don't mean you're punching and kicking. What I mean is you're holding in. So for example, my second daughter, Emerson, has a tendency when she's being scolded, because she slapped her sister, whatever the case may be, to tighten up her entire body, and she does this. She tightens down and shoves her fists into the ground. This is her physical defense against me telling her, look, Emerson, you can't do that, right? She physically defends. The result of the muscular armoring that we build in order to defend ourselves off from the imposing threat as children is the restriction of breathing. A person who can breathe deeply has soft, mobile tissue in the jaw and neck, because this is the first place where the muscle comes in the throat, across the chest, in the belly and the pelvic floor, right down between your anus and your balls, right? That's why when I say breathe into your balls, I mean bring your breath all the way down into that region of your body. So in order for an individual to breathe deeply, and breathing deep is the essence of all life. If you can imagine, oxygen is what stimulates electricity in our body. If you are physically rigid, and we all are, I didn't know I was until I started using some of the somatic therapies that I'll teach you. We're all very physically rigid. You do not expand. Your body doesn't expand to the capacity needed for you to pull in the oxygen needed to fully express everything that you have to offer to the world. The strongest version of yourself is shut down because the channel by which energy is being brought in to your body, your ability to breathe, is restricted. And what that does is it lowers what's called your motility. Motility is a term that's used to describe how the emotion, how feelings are expressed in your body. But you've got to tighten up and shut down feelings in order to defend yourself. But as we grow up and we proceed in life, we begin to feel as if we are physically imprisoned by our own selves. We imprison ourselves with the conditioning that was imposed on us mentally, of course. But you start to recognize that your body is also imprisoned. And that's why somatics and body psychology, bioenergetics, It's so fascinating to me because it's about the body. So what we need to do in order to breathe deep, to breathe into our balls, is to open up, to break up the restriction in each one of those bands of muscular armor that I described. Now, before I go any further, for you geniuses out there, I'm not saying that oxygen reaches your balls. Your lungs stop right about here. What happens is when you take in oxygen and your diaphragm drops, there's a cascading effect whereby you're pushing down on your organs and they bulge down towards your pelvic floor. A person who breathes deep will feel a bulging down in their anus. Now, I know most of us don't experience that, and it sounds strange. That's because the muscular armor, especially in the stomach and in the chest, is so tight that the breathing stops, sometimes up here, sometimes up here. Some people breathe only with their neck. We want to bring it right down into your sex center, the most primal brain in your body, which is down near the sacrum. So, I'm going to attempt here today, without having to do too much editing, to show you the ways that we break up the armor in those particular areas so that you can proceed in breathing deep and becoming a stronger version of yourself. The very first area that we've got to consider is our mouth and neck. The way we break up or remove the muscular tension associated with tightness in our mouth, face, and neck is by simply opening our mouth. That's why if you've watched my bioenergetic warm-up exercises videos, I tell you to begin with the bow. You can see what the bow is doing. It's opening up the chest, opening up the stomach, and extending the hip, but with the mouth open. Now, a lot of people become very uncomfortable with that mouth open. A lot of people experience choking. They can't do it, right? That's because the body is so adept to tightening those muscles that the minute you open it and you relax the muscles in your jaw to allow it to open to bring in oxygen, there's a fight back. There's a psychosomatic resistance against the opening of the mouth and the dropping open of the esophagus so that you can take in oxygen. This is something you'll have to practice. It's a very gentle area. So there's some massages that you may be able to do, but generally speaking, you're just going to have to learn to relax that. The next area is across the chest. This is an area that most of us who have kyphotic postures are very rigid in, very tight. It is a closing down of the heart, the area of the body that's associated with giving and receiving. Opening up. If you find that you feel very closed, very tight, very rounded in your upper back, you know that this area of your body is tight. When I first started doing somatic therapies with my mentor, I experienced a lot of tightness throughout, but I also was most profoundly struck by the opening of the musculature in my heart. So, in order to open up this particular area, what I'm going to show you today is something I've showed you in the past, and this is the bioenergetic stool that I've created here, and no, a foam roller doesn't substitute. You may use a ball, one of those exercise balls, Swiss balls, but I guarantee you that the intensity of the stretch is not going to be the same. Take the time to figure out how to make one of these. I've created videos. But what you're going to want to do, get on your stool, hopefully you can see me, lean over, and breathe with the mouth open. You'll see that I'm extending, thoracic extension, something I mention often in my videos about exercise. Is usually closed down in most people. It's energetic, but it's physiological, physical, but also energetic. It's because you're creating a defense against your heart. We need to open it up so that you can breathe deep. Hold that position, do that breathing with the mouth open 20 times. There are times where I'll just lose consciousness and stay there. When I say lose consciousness, doesn't mean that I disappeared and I'm floating in the clouds somewhere. It means I've just completely decided I'm going to stay here for a long time. I might stay there for 20 minutes. But begin with 20 breaths to open up the chest. Another thing that you can do because that's a stretch, to mobilize this particular area is to tap. The purpose of the tapping is not to neurotically attack yourself to open it up, but it's to get the muscles to release its neurotic hold. So it's almost like a form of self-massage. You can even bring sounds into it. Now, I'm going off in this is a totally different video, but sounds also help open up and mobilize your muscle. Go with whatever sound comes up. Mobilize this particular area. Next is the stomach. You're gonna lay in the stool, but this time have it right where your low back is. Again, about 20 breaths. Open it up. This is going to be very uncomfortable for you. Some people are going to be very uncomfortable with these exercises. Their body's going to vibrate, or they're going to be so rigid that it almost feels like your body's going to snap when you're doing this. That is an expression of your lack of motility. It's evidence that your breathing is shallow. Your muscles are like a tube holding in your ability to expand softly so that you can breathe deep. One of the things I've experienced with the belly is that you can massage it. Very painful, and I offer you caution when you do this. But what I like to do is lay this basketball on the floor and put my body over it, right about the belly button or to the left and right of the belly button, and let it press down deep into my bowels. Now in my experience, this particular area becomes very tight and rigid with a corsetting effect that many of us experience due to the shutting down of our lower selves. And when I say lower selves, I'm not talking about a better or a worse version of ourselves. I'm talking about our deep, primordial, sexual being. By the tightening of this particular area, especially around the belly button, that the Chinese, and in Chinese medicine they call the lower dantian, we're essentially cutting off the battery that charges our entire physiology with sex energy. So you're going to experience, as you lay over this, all the muscular rigidity. It's going to feel almost like you're going to shit yourself. Try your best to relax into the massage. Again, I offer you caution. Be very careful with this. The first time I did it and got up and began to breathe, allowing my belly to open up and to relax, I experienced a type of energy that I've never had before in my life. A laughing, joyful energy. Because that's what this area is associated with. Let's move on to the bottom, or the last portion of the area you want to stretch, and that is the pelvic floor, the balls. So when I say breathe deep into your balls, I'm talking about mobilizing the tissue and the organ deep down into an area or a situation whereby you may even feel bulging in your anus as your colon and all of your innards push down. You're able to relax all the musculature that would be typically holding it rigid. Again, on the stool, what I like to do is sit on it, lean over, and again breathe. You'll feel the entire area opening up, the muscles relaxing, and your ability to breathe down into it. Now that we've essentially released all the muscular holding patterns, released all of the tension in the muscles that are associated with deep breathing, now we practice our deep breathing exercise. So if you've watched some of my exercises or some of my other videos where I show you the bow, it's what we just did was basically we broke down the bow into different areas that we can concentrate on. All of the muscular rigidity is now gone. And now we proceed to lay on the floor like you see many people who partake in deep breathing type exercises, yoga, tai chi, or whatever the case may be. They begin where I'm going to show you now. But now you've got an advantage. You've got an advantage because all the muscles that are tight in most people are now soft, supple, and open to allow you to breathe deep. Lay on the bed or the floor with your feet flat, hands over your belly. Spread your fingers wide. And breathe. You can also place it over your chest if you find that that's where you hold tension. Or you can do both, like I like to do. What you may experience by bringing in all of that electricity, all that brand new energy, by performing the deep breathing exercises, is a vibration in your body. The very first time I experienced that, I felt tingling throughout my entire body. It wasn't the first time, but after several days of practicing with my mentor. I also began cramping. My muscles began cramping in my face and in my hands and in my chest. This is the body's response to shock, by being finally able to mobilize the energy that's in it. We've been holding on for so long. We've been holding rigid tightly for so long. We've had restricted breathing patterns for so long that when we nourish our body, our tissue, our viscera with the life-giving nutrition, energy, by breathing deep, our body freaks out and it's a defense. So, if you experience that, don't freak out. I was fortunate enough to be with my mentor at the time that I first experienced that, and he had me just walk around in a circle, grounding myself. Right? So, there you have it, my friends. Breathe into your balls by reducing the muscular armoring in the mouth, neck, chest, stomach, pelvic floor. You'll experience a deeper vibratory level in your entire body. You may even begin speaking with a deeper voice, as you've experienced me over the past few years. And you'll experience a form of energy, a renewing of your vibrance that you've never experienced before. Hope that's helpful. Talk to you next time.
Yo, Elliot,